So welcome back. Thank you for staying with us tonight here. We've had the business awards, and now we've arrived at another interesting part of our program, which is wine tasting. 4 German wines, 3 whites and 1 red. And I will leave all this to you, Jørgen.
Thank you.
Our esteemed partner for many years.
Yes.
Our Kongeli Hofleverandeur.
I think it's for 10 years.
Is it 10 years we've been working together?
We started with a tasting with Egon Müller and the Danish wine grower Peter Sisek.
Yeah.
Producing a wine in Spain.
I remember that very well.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
Cheers,
I think.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, for being partners here in this wine tasting. We tried this last year in December 20 for the first time.
Right.
And this time it's going to be 4 wines, and we're gonna see the wine growers and talk to them.
We are, yes, and we are starting with one of the leading biodynamic wine growers from Germany, from the Rheingau, Peter Jakob Kühn. I suppose that we will have his son, Peter Bernhard, joining us. If we could get Peter Bernhard, is he online?
Yes, I'm here. If you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, so thank you for having me. I will just try. At the moment, it says that I can't start my video. I think the host has to allow. Okay. Now, here we go.
Yeah. Hello.
So,
Peter.
yeah, do you see me? Do you hear me?
Yes, we see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. And again, similar as last year, I'm very happy to join the little group of wine growers and to present our winery and the wine that you have chosen for tonight.
Last year we had dry wine. We had the classic. This year we have changed it a little bit, as you will see. We have Kabinett from you. We do not have the Kabinett Scharzhof from Egon Müller afterwards. But we have his Scharzhof Riesling, and then we have a Kabinett from the Ruwer, from Maximin Grünhaus, and then we have a red. So it will be shorter today. It will be for 1 hour, and therefore we only have 4 wines and 4 growers. So we actually from 5 o'clock and for 20 minutes or something like that, we had the CEO of Ørsted, the Ørsted company, talking about sustainability. And I think you should perhaps just mention with a few words your approach to sustainability. I know that you are biodynamic. That's one part of it, of being green these days, but otherwise focus on the wine. So I hope you have a glass to say cheers with us.
Yes.
Because most of the audience are supposed to have all the wines and to be able to taste them with us. Cheers.
Cheers. Yes, so before I get into maybe the description of our work in biodynamic approaches, I will just sum up a little bit what we are. And well, I am Peter Bernhard Kühn. Together with my wife and my parents, we are making wine in the Rheingau in the middle of the Rheingau, which is a very gentle and beautiful landscape with rolling hills that are climbing from the riverbed up to the Taunus mountain. And this is like, this is a very old ocean bay area. So the sediments that we find in the vineyards are they change very quick from place to place. So we have a high diversity in different soil types on a very narrow point of place, which is giving us the opportunity to pretty much reflect those different terroirs, those different places with the wines that we make. And this is one of the very great capacities of the variety Riesling, that it can translate the spirit of a place into its flavor, into your glass, and so bring a little bit of the Rheingau to you, to Denmark, at least in a taste and emotional way. And so for us, it's a big pleasure to work in the vineyards. We have about 20 hectares of vineyards, mostly with Riesling and also a little bit of Pinot Noir, but this is more like a hobby. And a lot of the Riesling that we produce is dry, but also we have majorly one one appellation that is called Lenchen, that we are having today, that is very it's a very strong place for creating sweet wines. And this is due to the specific soil, where there's a lot of iron oxide in the soil, a lot of marl, a lot of clay, and so there's power, but there's also elegance in the soil. And then there is a small creek running in the valley of that appellation that creates a certain air movement by which we have during autumn many days that start with a lot of humidity, with a lot of morning fog. And the more that we approach maturity of the grapes, and the more that the sugar levels are rising in the grapes, together with the high humidity in the air, we have good conditions for the infection of noble rot of the berries of the grapes. And then what we do in the vineyards of Lenchen, we go in several passages. We go and take some grapes from the vineyard to bring them home, press them, but leave other grapes in the vineyard to stay and pick up more concentration, pick up the noble rot, and thereby try to reach high concentration and the very delicate sweet wines here. And the start of this process, the start of this game of finding a good concentration, depending on what nature gives you in the certain vintage. The start normally is with a Kabinett, where there is mostly healthy grapes in the wine at the start of the concentration process. So this is about the wine that we have in the glass now. And in the vintage 2018, Lenchen Kabinett, and well, for our region in the middle of the Rheingau, it was a very nice and a very good vintage. We had a very bright and sunny summer period. It was, when we look at it in retrospective, maybe the first vintage of a trilogy that was marked by a very bright summer. And for our region, with a good water keeping soil capacity, it was beneficial. So we have to say that it was a great vintage. We have been very happy with it. We have managed to pick the grapes at a very nice and delicate balance point. And I think you can feel in the wine a great positive atmosphere, a great positive aura. It is nicely balanced. It is not dominated by sweetness. It has a good acidity. It has a nice texture, and that's normally what we try to achieve. That we have wines that are in a very nice proportion with the different elements that build up the personality of the wine. Yes, and to reach that balance in the grape, that is the foundation for the expression of the wine. I mean, one of the things that, or one key factor of the things that we do to reach that is the way we treat our soils, the way we treat our vineyards, and this is since 2004. In organic and in biodynamic matter. And for me, one key point of the biodynamic approach really is the soil management and to work with organic earth, with living material. I'm speaking of using compost to stimulate and to nutrify the different soils, and to enrich the soils with microorganisms, to give the certain parcel the possibility to really go into an active interchange of nutrients with the vineyard. So we try to give the soil and the vine the capacity to talk to each other, to put it into a certain picture, because it's not only the soil that will give nutrients to the plant, but it's also the other way around. So it's a symbiotic system. The plant takes energy from the sun through photosynthesis and assimilates that will 50% of those assimilates will go through the roots directly into the soil and be nutrients for the microorganisms, and those organisms will, in reaction to this, take elements from the soils like potassium and other elements that the plant needs to grow and build up aromas. They will make those elements available, and that's the dialogue that I'm thinking of, very, very central for a balanced vigor and a balanced expression of the fruit and a growing of the fruit. So yeah, that's a little bit the technical the technical approach of this living soil, but it goes down when you have this idea in mind. This is a leading motivation for us when you go every day into your parcels and you look at the vineyard. You see what plants are growing here and there, and it's not only that you see those plants like as a random appearance. You start to understand, as with much more years that you do it, you start to understand that those plants give signals to you. They tell you something. They tell you what's happening in your vineyard. They tell you if things are good, or if things are maybe a little bit over or a little bit too less. And so it's becoming a very vital, I would say, a very living partnership. It's not that we go out in the vineyard and see just the vines and the soil and the grapes. It's more that we know the vineyard more as personality, and this respect and the empathy with your soils and with your vines. This is something that comes with the work of with a biodynamic approach, not only with biodynamics, but this is one thing that comes, and it creates a certain respect in yourself for the vineyard, and that results, or that leads to a good management, to a good reflection, and to a sustainable circle system that you try to create in your winery. And that's what what we love to do.
Thank you. I would love to see your daughter. I think I suppose it's your daughter we can hear in the background.
Yeah.
We are a bit behind schedule. So
yeah, it's okay. She's almost going to bed. I think it's it's okay if you will see her maybe next time.
Yeah, perhaps we'll have her vintage 2020.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and thank you.
Yes, cheers. Thank you too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Then we go to the Saar. We taste in a way by contrast, you could say, because we go from. Do we have Egon Müller with us? Yeah. Because we go from the Rheingau to the Saar, which is a part of the Mosel region. And when I say that we are tasting in a way by contrast, it's because there is a very distinct difference in the character when you go from the Rheingau, which are more powerful wines, and then when you go to the Mosel, you get wines that are generally lighter, but they have a lot of finesse, and probably some of those expressing this in the purest way are the wines produced in the Saar and by Egon. So welcome to you, Egon. We have your Scharzhof Riesling here, 2020. I don't know which wine you have in your glass, but cheers to you. Welcome.
Cheers, cheers. I didn't get a chance to get me a glass because I had awful trouble getting onto this meeting. We have a very bad internet connection. So
you came from Paris?
No. It was because of COVID. The event was cancelled.
Yeah.
So I was here, and it's just that today our internet is very, very slow, and I had real trouble getting onto this meeting, and I hope that I stay there, because before I've been on, I believe I was on a couple of times, but then I was kicked out again. So we better get on.
Yeah. Thank you for the information about the 2021 vintage that you sent us. It's good to know already what we can expect, and to have also the description of the vintage. It sounds interesting with the 2021 vintage. And now, as we are having the 2020 vintage in our glass, I think it could be interesting to hear how you compare 2020, 2021 to 2020, and also 2019.
Well, that's there are three completely different vintages. 20 and 19 have been rather hot. 20 is a year where we have very little botrytis. We have ripe grapes, but since there was no botrytis, the sugar levels didn't really get into the Auslese bracket. And in 2019, there was plenty of botrytis, so we were able to make very good selections. We have plenty of Auslese. We even have Trockenbeeren Auslese. So 21 is again completely different in as much as it was a rather cool year, with the exception maybe of the month of June, which was very nice and gave us a good quick flowering. But then in July we had the big rainfalls that devastated the Ahr region and plenty of the Eifel hills. We are maybe a little bit on the outside, so we were not really hit, but we had much more rain than is good for us, and that brought on a very big pressure of mildew. And then August was quite cold. I've heard it being said somewhere that it was the coldest August for the last 30 years. And whenever you have a cold August or cold September, you can assume that you will have high acidity. And that's probably going to be the hallmark of the 21. We've rarely had a vintage with as high acidity as in 21, but our impression is that the wines are quite well balanced. They can take the acidity, and we are really pleased. On the other hand, if you think that Riesling and high acidity are not your favorite wine, then you're probably better off with the 20s, where you have the ripeness, but with what you often find in hot years, a much lower acidity.
So do you expect that there will be any wines in the 21 vintage for the auction, the Versteigerung in the autumn?
Oh yes, oh yes. We have a very nice Auslese Gold Cup that is really something special. There is Spätlese from Wiltinger Braune Kupp, and of course our cask of Kabinett Alte Reben. Mm-hmm. And for a future auction, maybe some Trockenbeeren Auslese.
Wow. So you managed also to produce Trockenbeeren Auslese in 21.
Yes, it was quite difficult because our picking team was almost half made up of people who were harvesting for the first time with us. And so it turned out quite difficult to train them and to manage them. And so we decided to have two teams. One that was led by Veronica with the best pickers, the most experienced, or it was an all-woman team. And the other team came after them and picked whatever they left us. And the first team only went for the really dry botrytis grapes.
Well, it will be fascinating to taste in the autumn next year. I look forward to that. And also to tasting, of course, your normal range. And when do you expect that this will be possible?
Well, we thought that given the later harvest, we'd probably have a long winemaking. But as it turned out, all the casks have fermented quite well, and all the fermentations are already finished. So we'll probably have the wines ready for tasting in March, and we'll also start bottling in March.
I see. So it could be possible to taste sometime around Pro-Wein or the Grand Cru de Bourgogne.
I think by Pro-Wein, the wines, if not in bottle, they will be finished, ready for bottling, and ready for tasting.
Okay. Good. Well, thank you, Egon, and thank you very much for joining us again. And I wish you Merry Christmas and
well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. And please enjoy the wine. And Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hello, Maximin.
Hi, Jørgen.
Hi. Thank
evening.
you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for the great hospitality in November, the great lunch with even a 1921 Beerenauslese. Yes, to that.
Cheers. That was quite unique for us, as it has been the first bottle we had. My father used to have them earlier. So for the rest, attending and listening in the auction, which Egon just described earlier, we auctioned this year in 2018, Trockenbeerenauslese, number 221. And the day before, we opened a bottle of Beerenauslese of 1921, paired by the 2018, so 100 years of Beerenauslese. And that was the topic, and the wines accompanying the lunch.
And as far as I understood, you produced 11 different Auslesen in 2018.
Even more, I think. We 18 was a special gift for us, since there was no Rochester botrytis on the one hand, but most of it has been very hot, and so the grapes really shrinkled by the heat, and that conserved a very special terroir and very special difference of each barrel. So when I actually when I tasted the barrels, I decided which barrel is a single cask bottling, which is a number, and there have been so many different single cask bottlings that I decided on making more and more single cask bottlings until my father and our cellar master told me it's probably a little bit too much, but finally, if you have a gift like in this year, you just have to take it. And there's quite some beauties in the treasury for some smaller vintages.
Well, the Auslesen are, of course, fascinating, but what we have here is your Kabinett, your 2019 Abtsberger tasting Kabinett, which I think is an outstanding value. I think actually in general that German Riesling from good producers, from good growers, are outstanding value if you compare the quality of wine you have at the price with many other wine growing regions. But I think it would be good to hear about the Abtsberg, because last year we had when we had this online tasting, we had one of your should we say Ortsweine, and this year the idea was to go a step up. So we have fewer wines, but we are at a higher level.
Yeah, so directly behind me, actually, you see on the bottom, you see the castle this way, and direct behind me, it's Abtsberg. So it's one monopole vineyard, which is covering 3 single vineyards, the old drinking hierarchy. Bodeberg, Herrenberg, and Abtsberg. And the steepest one behind me is directly Abtsberg. And Kabinett is a type of wine where Egon, you just heard him before, is legendary, making this type of wine in a super balanced, super delicious way. And so Ruwer, where we are situated, and Egon earlier on Saar, that are the cooler parts of the Mosel growing area. And I think the wines are even more precise. So when you taste 19 Abtsberg Kabinett, it's so saline, it's so fine, it's so clear, and it has a little bit of residual sugar, of course, but this is dancingly balanced with what is there on fruit. So acidity and fruit is really in a perfect balance, so that you have the desire of drinking the next glass. And even if you take the whole bottle, it's only 7.5% alcohol, so it's a super enjoyable evening. Yeah, it's a type of wine we love dearly. It's our actually more and more our aperitif wine instead of sparklings, because when people come for dinner, they're often a little bit exhausted, and then they have like the power from the fruit. They have they're awake and open for the day because of the clear acidity, and they don't have a lot of alcohol, so they are still fresh. And that's for us a perfect situation to start the evening. At the same time, it's we're so now it's on. Tschüss.
Hallo.
So they're going to bed now. So it's a perfect start in the evening. And yeah, a great wine. And as you said, it's in a second way, it's a super price relation, since the aging potential is decades of this type of wine.
So how do you look upon the 2021 vintage? The 21 vintage?
21 was for us really challenging. We had, like I said, you see the full vineyard we grow wine on in the back of me on the picture. So everything is at one piece, which is perfect in the workflow. When we work in the vineyard, it's very close paths or ways towards the wine cellar. But when it comes to weather, then we are hit completely. So in 17 and 19, for example, 19 was a very small vintage for us, because we had a huge frost destroying half of the harvest already at the first Sunday of May. And this year, on the last weekend of July, we had a hailstorm which destroyed 40% of the harvest. So we went in there with a very small possible quantity, and since it was super cool April and May, everything started very late. So actually we finished the harvest 4.5 weeks ago, so mid of November. So it was a very, very late. So when you came for lunch the day before we stopped harvesting, which is as it has been in my childhood, but nowadays it has been really, really late. So we have a very good quality start. So for Kabinett and Gutswein, Ortswein, there's everything there. And we focus quite a bit on the GGs since they are very important for us. But when it comes to Auslese, there's nothing we could select. We still have a little bit of ice wine out there. We're gambling on getting some ice wine. And Spätlese will be very, very, very little. So it's a decent quality in total, but the top wines is really rare. So a difficult vintage. What I taste so far is good, but it has been a long way and lots of passion to wait and to not pick too early. Everybody in the valley has been picked everything for a long time, and we still worked in the vineyard and we were waiting for the best results. So that was for me as a rather young winemaker, it was a new task to really wait and wait and wait for the right moment. But luckily it wasn't warm, so there was no rotting. So no normal either, but no bad rotting at the same time. So we could wait as long as we could to have ripe grapes we took in.
So for the noble the noble sweet wines, we have to be happy with what we have or what we can get of the 2018, 19, and 2020.
20 hasn't been for us a noble rot vintage either. So like Egon said, in 19 we had a very beautiful Auslese. In 20 we haven't had any Auslese because there was no noble rotting. So we took in perfectly ripe, perfect Spätlese and GG quality. But no Auslese in 20, and the same in 21, even with fewer Spätlese than it has been in 20. But differently to what Egon said, this due to the late harvest, the cellar is already very cool. So we have a natural cooled cellar, and it's between 11 and 14 degrees there in the moment. So so fermentation is very, very, very slow. I have a few barrels which have been fermented through. But there's still a lot to go. So I still hope that the next 10 days, a lot of fermentation will be closed down so that we have a little bit more calmer Christmas. But there's still some way to go.
Right. Thank you very much, Maximin.
Welcome.
Best wishes for Christmas and the New Year.
Hope to see you soon again. That was my single journey in 2021 was to Denmark.
Yes, thank you for that.
The first flight I did after COVID, so it was something very new. It felt really special.
Yeah, and the only one.
Yeah, the only one. Yeah,
and the only one. Cheers, and thank you for that. Yes. Yep. Det er husvinen. Skal vi sætte den her, eller vil du tager en hel flaske? the time? Vincent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Jørgen, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello.
Perfect. Hi.
Hello, Vincent. So you managed to arrive in time.
Yeah, I just came home, but I finally made it.
you were on the road, I understood.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We have actually been, now we are supposed, as you've been informed, will be tasting your Sonnenberg. So as I said earlier, we are tasting the wines at a higher level than last year. So we have been tasting cabinets this year, whereas it was rather Ortsweine or Gutsweine last year. So we have the Sonnenberg. But before this, I would just mention to you that actually when we had this Deutsch-Danish Wirtschaftspreise, when they were when the winners were being presented, we were celebrating in your sect, your Blanc de Noir. So we've already had Pinot Noir from you, but in a white and sparkling version. And I don't know if you know, but it has actually got very, very good press here in Denmark this year. You can see it on our website. If you go in our calendar called Smagninger, if you go into our calendar, you will see on this day, today, the 14th of December, you will see there's a link, press, and it's showing some of the press that you had this year, not only for this, but also for your Pinot Noir Rosé Brut, and also your Chardonnay, actually. So as we have had this, and we are rather focusing on your red here, like last year. Last year we had the 2017 Toray. This year it's the 2018 Sonnenberg. Now, you could perhaps tell us a bit about the red wines you're producing. We understand that you are successful with producing Pinot Noir, no matter if it is white sparkling or rosé sparkling or reds. But when did you, at your family estate, when did you actually start producing Pinot Noir, growing Pinot Noir and producing wine from this? And from where would you say that it took off with the quality of these wines?
Well, so Pinot Noir always has been an important part of our vineyard surface area. In the meantime, we have like 25% of our vineyards planted with Pinot Noir, and it's still growing, so we still plant Pinot Noir. It's by far the most important red variety we grow, and it's also in our whole portfolio the place number 2 in varieties after Riesling, for sure. Like you mentioned, we produce from Pinot Noir a lot of sparkling wine, the white one and the rosé, and also reserve. But mainly we use it for Pinot Noir red wine, and we produce this also in 3 different quality levels, and also 2 different single vineyards, and one of those we're going to taste tonight.
Yeah, you're actually producing 4 or 5 red Pinot Noirs because you have the quality you call R, and you also have Mandel Garden. But what would you say is special with Sonnenberg? Because Sonnenberg is the most well-known of your wines in Denmark, the Pinot Noir or Spätburgunder Sonnenberg. What can you tell about the location and so on?
Yes, like you said, we produce two different single vineyards. One is the Mandel Garden and one is the Sonnenberg. And Sonnenberg is by far the oldest plot of French genetics we have planted in Gönheim. My father brought the first clones from Burgundy to our region in the mid of the 90s. And Gönheimer Sonnenberg has always been, so this plot has always been our premium quality Pinot Noir. In the meantime, we have another one, the Mandel Garden, which is a bit younger, but a denser plantation and a bit different soil type. And we produce the R, or reserve Pinot Noir, in some years. But focusing on the Sonnenberg, it's a plot which is mainly made from löss soil with a very high calcaric content in the soil. We have planted here around 7,000 vines per hectare and pick like 35 hectoliters per hectare in yield. So this genetic has from itself a very low yield, so you don't have to correct the yield, you don't have to do a green harvest or anything. So it's a system which is really in balance after like 25 years.
How would you compare the recent vintages? Now we're having 2018. I think we had 4 qualities from you. We still have a little bit left of the Grünheimer, of you could say the Village wine, and then we have Toray 2018. We have the Sonnenberg that we have in our glass, and we also have some of the special cuvée that you call R, actually. And how was the situation in 2019 and 2020 for your Pinot Noirs? How would you describe this?
Well, what we have. Yeah, well, what we have in our glass now, it's 2018, which is quite a stunning hot vintage. So compared to that, 19 was also quite warm, but much lower in yield. And yeah, the wines are a bit higher in acidity, a bit more feminine, lighter in color. And 2020, I'm quite happy so far. What I tasted in the barrel, we haven't bottled any of them yet. But we're planning for January to bottle the first for the Gönheimer, the first batch from 2020, which is always aged in big oak casks. So the development of the wines is a bit different, like for the single vineyards, which are in small barrels. And the 18 vintage we have in our glass now is by far the warmest and richest Pinot Noir vintage we had the last couple of years. And this wine is aged also in small barrels for 18 months with around 20% of new oak. So the development of the wine, I would say, just begins now, but the aging potential is probably another 10 years or more.
When your estate is run biodynamically and it's Demeter certified, but when did, as far as I remember, it was your parents that that converted your the estate into organic farming, and then, but when was it converted into biodynamic farming?
Yeah, so my father overtook the estate in the early 80s, 1982. He overtook from his father, and in the same year he changed to organic farming. And a couple of years later, he always tried to join Demeter and getting the biodynamic certification. But Demeter just started to allow the winemakers to join Demeter in 2006 because they had a problem with the alcohol. And before that, they just certified organic and biodynamic food and agriculture. But since 2006, it's possible to join as a winery, Demeter. And so we are members since 2006.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So does this mean that it's only from 2006 that an estate, a biodynamically run estate in Germany could apply for the Demeter certification?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't possible before. Yeah. So we started with the first experiments of biodynamic preparations around 2003, and in 2006, Demeter decided to get the possibility to open for the wineries, and so we took this opportunity.
Okay, which wines will you be bottling? Which Pinot Noirs will you be bottling in the 2020 vintage of the red Pinot Noir? Will you
we got to bottle the whole portfolio besides the R. So we'll have the Grünhaus Spätburgunder as the easiest quality. We will have the Thorei Spätburgunder in the middle range, which is the negative barrel selection from our single vineyards. And then we will have the best barrels from the single vineyards, the Mandel Garden and the Sonnenberg. So 4 blends.
Okay. And have you any comments on the production of your sparkling wines, your sect or champagne method wines? What is in the future of these? Now we have the Blanc de Noir. We also have the Pinot Noir Rosé. We have also the Blanc de Blanc. The Brut Nature. Just a few words because we are actually a bit over time. A little bit over time.
Yeah, for us, sparkling wine production has been an issue and a big topic since the early 80s. So my father already started to produce sparkling wine. After I overtook the estate in 2015, I tried to get a bit more focus on the production of sparkling wine. In the meantime, we produce like 5 different blends of different sparkling wines with Riesling, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay. And speciality of the cuvées is this, that we ferment them always completely in oak. We just do a champagne pressing, so just use the first 70% of the juice out from the press. Fermentation in oak, half a year on the yeast, and after the bottle fermentation, at least 24 months on the lees. And our highest quality, the vintage currently, is aged for up to 7 years. So we try to give those wines a lot of time on the lees to develop.
Thank you very much, Vincent. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from us here. And
Thanks.
Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you, Jørgen. Have a good time.
Eymann?
Yeah, thank you very much, Vincent, and all your colleagues there. 4 wine growers from Germany joining us. Excellent. Just to comment on Vincent Eymann.
Yes.
Eymann, he talked about sparkling wines. It was his sparkling wine, the Blanc de Noir, that we had for our New Year's reception.
Yes, it was sent as a gift to all, I think all members.
All the members, and got really great reviews.
Yeah,
good. Many people mentioned this to me. It was really excellent. Well, thank you to everybody who has been with us. The 4 wine growers, you, Jørgen, and you at home. You have
inviting us once again.
Hopefully enjoyed the wine tasting as well as the award ceremony. Well, I wish you all a peaceful time now.
And healthy.
Peaceful and healthy time. This was not the last event that we are running. Actually, we're going to have one more on the 21st of December. It's going to be in German, but everybody's invited to join. We're going to have a Christmas special of our A Coffee With series, in which I have interviews, and I'm going to interview Maike van den Boom, who is Chief Happiness Officer in her own company. She has written a few books on happiness, and she's going to share some of her secrets or some of the research or stuff that she has gotten to know on happiness with us all, and I invite you to join us for this session there on Tuesday morning at 8:30. If you can make it, I see you there. If you cannot make it, I wish you a wonderful Christmas time now, and yeah, stay healthy and relaxed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.